Travel all over the countryside, ask the Leylands, ask the Leylands. Travel all over the countryside, ask the Leyland Brothers. Whatever it is that you want to see, ask the Leylands, ask the Leylands. No matter whatever that happens to be, ask the Leyland Brothers. Come on, be in it and join in the fun. Travel all over Australia.
We certainly have an unusual variety of stories for you in this episode. Firstly, we show you what it's like to jump out of a plane at 10,000 feet. That takes place here at Branxton in New South Wales. We go skydiving with the Newcastle Sport Parachute Club.
Then we go north into North Queensland to Cairns to have a look at the manufacture of coral jewellery. Now, on the Barrier Reef, they've discovered a miniaturised coral and they're setting this into beautiful jewellery.
Our final story comes from the sheep station of Mungo here in Outback, New South Wales. There we take a look at an unusual geographical formation called the Walls of China. We've received a request from Mr. J. Novak in Newcastle to show the activities of the Newcastle Sport Parachute Club. So we've come to the club's drop zone to have a look at what's involved in parachuting. In fact, we've had a number of letters about parachuting and skydiving. Somebody wrote to us and asked what it was like to jump out at 10,000 feet. But no, we're not going to jump out at 10,000 feet, or at least I'm not. What we're going to do instead is mount our cameras on one of the chaps from the club here and just find out what it's like to drop out of a plane at 10,000 feet. The club at Branxton near Newcastle in New South Wales has a hangar for its aircraft, which also serves as an instructional area. For one of the club's main activities is teaching the art of parachuting and skydiving. Before we take you on a free fall, let's look at what's involved in learning to skydive. Every student is taught the theory of parachute operation and how to fold a parachute. In practice, everyone folds their own. After all, if it doesn't open, you have no one to blame but yourself. The practical starts with run-throughs on the ground.
Now look back at me, I'll be in the aircraft. Go! Now hit the arc. Go on, really, hit it, come on.
1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000.
Yeah, okay, make sure you look at that handle, though. Right, and really hit the arch. Get the head right back as far as you can. It is important.
After sufficient theory, the students take to the air for their first jumps, which are on what's known as a static line. The line is attached to the plane and pulls the ripcord when it's at full stretch. This saves the possibly nervous jumper from forgetting to pull the cord. For these student jumps, the plane climbs to 2,500 feet, and on a given instruction, they simply jump free of the open door. As the students progress, they must pull a dummy ripcord on 3 consecutive jumps to satisfy the observer that they're ready for a free fall, in which they pull their own ripcord manually on the way down. These parachute canopies are designed for training and can be turned and steered into the wind or with the wind, as the parachute not only descends, but also glides slightly at about 8 knots in a forward direction. This way the parachutist can steer into a given landing point, and it's this steering ability which takes experience to learn properly. Accurate landing is important if one doesn't want to end up hanging in a telegraph pole. As the students gain more experience, they progress to canopies with greater glide angles, and some of the top competitive chutes can hold their own against a 20-knot wind. For our free-fall run with the cameras, 4 of the top club skydivers are equipped with high-performance type of parachutes. Laurie Sams, a veteran jumper approaching his 1,000th jump, has our camera mounted on his helmet for this free-fall jump. And when the plane has reached 10,000 feet, they go. In free fall, they reach speeds of 200 kilometres an hour and appear to fall like stones, until suddenly at 2,000 feet they pull the ripcord and gently drift to the ground, steering all the time to land on the target area of only a few metres in diameter. With glide speeds of 20 knots, these top parachutists can land with pinpoint accuracy, even in moderately windy conditions. It seems a lot of energy and effort for a 60-second thrill, but as one club member put it, it's worth every second. In free fall, the skydivers perform all kinds of manoeuvres and are able to truly fly by using parts of their body to control their flight. For every 3 metres of downward movement, they can move forward 1. Suddenly it's all over when the ripcord is pulled and the skydivers gently drift downward and towards the target area. The club likes to stress that parachuting is not a dangerous sport and maintains that the most hazardous part of a weekend skydiving is the drive to the airfield on the highway. They may be right, but jumping out of a plane and falling 7,000 feet through the air in 60 seconds is not for everyone.
Will you show me something about coral, says Vanessa Bevan of Vaucluse in Sydney. We're going to show you something unusual that is being done with coral, here at Larock Coral Jewellery Factory in Cairns. Miniature corals are set into cabochons and made into jewellery that is attracting interest from people all over the world. Bev and Gordon McCaig wanted to educate people about the wonders of the Great Barrier Reef and decided that using coral tastefully set into jewellery was a good beginning. People who buy and wear their coral jewellery are gaining some knowledge of the reef, and long-term conservation of the reef depends on people understanding more about it. Even Gordon's watchdog Buster wears a collar studded with his master's wares. Bev and Gordon have created a cartoon character of a coral polyp to help children and adults to understand coral. So Gordon, this is your characterisation of a coral polyp.
That's right. Yes, we developed it here, and she's very much part of the scene. She's cute and she's intriguing, and the kids love her. And she's as much an Australian as a koala or a kangaroo, mate.
What do you call her?
We call her Polly the polyp.
That's good for kids to remember.
I reckon that's good, and they like her, and they can pull the tentacles off her, and they associate with her more than they associate with the reef in terms of coral.
That's good, because it means that they'll understand the need to conserve the reef, and the fact that the coral you use is the home of the polyp and not the animal itself.
That's right, and everything we do is aimed towards education. We want children and people generally to know more about the reef. We produce a full range of educational material in 4 languages, and the money to do that comes from the sale of these miniature corals, which we discovered. Miniature corals incorporated into fine jewellery. And you see, one pays for the other. Mind you, the educational effects of the jewellery is not lost either. Women are great talkers, and they're quick to tell other women, well, yes, it is lovely, isn't it? This coral from Australia's Great Barrier Reef, and it's made by an animal called a coral polyp.
And this very fine coral you have here, this is a unique form that you discovered yourself?
I've no doubt it's found in other parts of the world, but we discovered it on the reef. We farm it ourselves now. We actually grow it on a more accessible part of the reef. We work very hard for it, but it's got all the beauty of the reef, and it's very portable, and it can be put into something which can be admired, like jewellery.
And that is actually a complete miniaturisation of the bigger sized coral.
Exactly. The polyp that makes that is probably a miniaturised version of the polyp that makes a massive coral, and polyps can grow up to 2 or 3 inches in height. But in that, they're purely microscopic, but they're exactly the same animal in every sense of the word.
To find out how this beautiful coral jewellery is made, we're going to have a look through the factory. The real story starts outside the factory, when Gordon and co-diver Keith Inch arrive home from a diving expedition on the reef. Gordon needs special permits to collect the coral, and is quick to point out that they only harvest the coral. They never remove the entire section. The coral polyps soon build it up again. The minute coral used in Larrock jewellery is spread over a wide area of reef, and it takes a whole day of diving for Gordon and Keith to gather this tray of coral miniatures. Keith delivers a day's collection to Colleen Nichols, who washes the delicate coral in chloride to clean off the salt and whiten the coral. These corals epitomise the delicate structure and beauty of coral, but in a miniature and manageable form. Once dry, the miniature corals are taken into an air-conditioned, dust-free room for sorting and placing into cabochon moulds. Only the finest pieces of coral are used. The finer the specimens, the rarer they are, and more expensive they become. The moulds are filled with a synthetic crystal material. All air bubbles must be removed. Various coloured crystal materials are used as a background to accentuate the delicate coral. Bev removes the cabochons from the moulds after the crystal material has set hard. Even at this stage in the process, they look effective. Outside the dust-proof room, Pat Collinson takes the hardened cabochons and grinds any rough edges or lumps off them. The buffing wheel prepares the surface for the final stage. Back inside the dust-free room, Pam Hillen carefully chemically glazes the surface of each cabochon. The magnifier ensures that no jewellery with flaws gets past Pam. The cabochons are set into various types of settings and sell from a few dollars up to $150 for the rarest fine corals. Larrock's whole concept is conservation of the reef by better understanding. Anyone can understand the beauty of coral when displayed in this manner. Here is a new approach to the conservation of our Great Barrier Reef.
We've received this letter which says, "My wife and I recently took a trip around New South Wales and have seen many of the places of interest that you've mentioned on your program. But there is still one place of interest that holds an air of excitement and mystery I will not forget. It is called the Walls of China, which is the eastern wall of an inland sea approximately 50 miles from Mildura. The walls are in New South Wales. Many interesting fossils have been found, some of great scientific interest. The sea dried up millions of years ago. So would you please be able to tell me more about the fossils and also the formation of the walls?" And this letter comes from Kim Orish from Redfern in New South Wales, and he encloses a photograph here which is taken of the Walls of China.
To reach the Walls of China, we follow the road north from Mildura in Victoria towards Mungo Station, then turn into the homestead. This sprawling sheep spread lies east of the Darling River and includes Lake Mungo. Permission must be first obtained from the owners before proceeding to the lake or the walls. Albert Barnes and his wife welcome visitors and are only too keen to give directions. They're finding in fact that they seem to have something of a tourist attraction in the unusual Walls of China. From the homestead it's an easy half-hour's drive across the dried-up basin of Lake Mungo towards a rim of high wind-blown sand dunes on the eastern shores of the lake. There is little life on the windswept dunes today, but long ago these would have been the beach dunes of a beautiful lake, and lush, shady trees would have grown, where now there is nothing but desolation. From the crest of one of the highest dunes in the long ridge of sand, it's possible, with a little imagination, to picture what this country would have been like 30,000 years ago. Lake Mungo itself lies on an ancient dried-up tributary of the Lachlan River and was fed by its waters. Waterfowl and fish would have been in abundant supply, and it's in this paradise setting that the Aborigines lived and hunted. They would have eaten mainly fish, emu eggs and game, including giant marsupials. They lived this way through more than 2,000 human generations. Wind erosion has scarred the face of the dunes, but this time for once erosion was acting as man's ally, and in 1968 uncovered a skeleton. It proved to be of an Aboriginal woman who was cremated 26,000 years ago, and that is now the oldest evidence found anywhere on Earth of a ritual cremation. Soon scientists from the Australian National University descended on Lake Mungo to delve into the very beginnings of modern man. Lake Mungo is now considered one of the greatest finds scientifically for many years. From the compacted sand, the researchers are slowly finding the pieces of a giant jigsaw puzzle. Tiny flakes of rock or stone tools are seeing daylight for the first time in 30 and 40,000 years. From such evidence, scientists are beginning to rewrite the prehistory books. A special rubber mixture is sprayed on the walls of the excavation and peeled away when dry, taking with it a permanent sand record of the strata. Such records provide evidence that man was very active in the area 28,000 years ago, shattering previous theories that he was only a recent occupant of Australia. Ancient fireplaces in the dunes are also giving up their long-held secrets.
Now, the scientists have discovered some interesting things. In this one fireplace, for instance, they've managed to find out that 30,000 years ago, the magnetic poles of the Earth were in a different place to where they are now. Now, an interesting thing is that when stones are heated to a certain temperature, and this happens with bricks, for instance, in a kiln, the metallic components in that line up according to the magnetic lines north-south of the Earth. Now, 30,000 years ago, when this fire was lit, it reached sufficient temperature for some of the stones to orientate into the magnetic fields that were in existence at the time. And it happens that by very sensitive instruments they can measure this, and they've discovered that it was 120 degrees different to where the north and south poles are today. So that's one significant factor that's come out of this fire, which has confirmed scientific belief that this thing took place 30,000 years ago. Anyway, about 14,000 years ago, at the end of the Ice Age, this area started to dry up and began to look a little bit like it is today. Well, the game went, the fish went, and a lot of things changed, so the Aborigines' way of life changed. And he started then looking for different forms of food. And he found that he could gather grass seeds and grind them up using grindstones like this one here. And by grinding the stone was able to produce a rough kind of meal and therefore produce kind of flour. This, incidentally, represents the earliest evidence of man anywhere on the face of the earth ever having done that, producing flour.
These weird sand dunes, shaped and scarred by nature, will probably reveal many more secrets from the past before the scientists are through with them. But to the average visitor to the walls of China, like Mr. Orish, who wrote asking to know more, they remain a place of awesome beauty, of light and shade, and of varied hues. As the sun sinks lower on the horizon, a cold stillness seems to linger over the twisted shapes of the walls of China, and we have to agree with Mr. Orish's comment that it would be difficult to forget the air of excitement and mystery which seems to surround this place.
Travel all over the countryside, ask the Leylands, ask the Leylands. Travel all over the countryside, ask the Leyland Brothers. Whatever it is that you want to see, ask the Leylands, ask the Leylands. No matter whatever that happens to be, ask the Leyland Brothers. Come on, me in and join in the fun. Travel all over Australia. Brothers.